Hey everybody, welcome to the Partnerships with Purpose podcast. We're going to explore ways to engage communities through service learning projects and research. I'm Cedric Schei with the Texas Target Communities program at Texas A&M University. We're hoping these stories will highlight and inspire more community-engaged partnerships. In part 2, John makes his way back to Texas A&M and becomes the director of Texas Target Communities. We'll learn more about his journey and Texas Target Communities' rules of thumb for community engagement.
So I decided that I didn't want an academic career. I wanted to learn more about how to be a skilled community builder. I went to work for a nonprofit in North Carolina called MDC, an organization with a long track record of leading community work, connecting underserved, marginalized people and places to opportunity. I wanted to work there. And I worked there for 9 years, and I honed my skills. I got lots more practice, greater responsibility in the design and execution of engagement projects. And I was fine doing that when I got a call from Dr. Van Zant, Shannon Van Zant, who you've interviewed.
Yeah, she was our first interview.
Yeah, and while we were talking, she's like, we have students who come to this place and leave with a master's degree, but with no real understanding, no hands-on experience doing community work. That's missing. That's a gap in the education. We're able to work out an arrangement whereby I would come as a professor of the practice. I would teach capstone courses, and I would lead the Texas Target Communities program. That would be, my role. And I was happy to come back and do that because I felt like if I was gonna leave North Carolina, where I was situated in North Carolina, the only place I would do that for was to come back to Texas A&M. One, because it would allow me to be closer to my parents and extended family, my siblings, mm-hmm. but also because I felt like I had learned a lot in North Carolina. I had seen what was possible in North Carolina. I knew that it wasn't happening in Texas, and I wanted to come back and be, again, a part of the change.
Man, so whenever you took your step in this program, what are some things you were hearing from the communities you were working with, and what would you say you guys were about?
Before I took it over, the first thing I did was to reach out to networks of extension agents and planners and mm-hmm. local officials to say, hey, there's this thing called Texas Target Communities. Here's what it is. Here's what it can provide. Can you benefit from it? Here's what I think could be the value to a place like talking to the local officials. Here's the value that I think it can bring for you. Do you think that would be? Do you agree with me that would be something that would be useful in your place? And people were like, yeah. I mean, yeah, we when can you come? And so, but it took a little bit of time for us to get the word out about what we were providing. But the first couple of places we worked, there was one that was, that we're still in contact with. As a matter of fact, we're going to do some work with them this fall. Oh, wow. Nolanville. And there was another that, it didn't quite take. I'm reading about that place here recently, and some of the things that we were saying to them back then, they have come to understand were truths.
Yeah.
And they're doing some of that stuff now, but at the time it didn't. They had visions of grandeur that they couldn't be disabused of, unfortunately.
Yeah. So in Nolanville, what was some of the things that y'all were bringing, the ideas, the capacity building that Texas Target Communities were doing?
Nolanville was a small town, is a small town on the way to Killeen, the military base. It was clear that they had an earnest, that they were so hopeful, so committed to that place and the people in that place. Actually, we got a call from a person who was the city manager who was actually leaving. Mm-hmm. And the city manager had talked to a consultant who was a graduate of Texas A&M. and had encouraged that city manager, the outgoing city manager, to give us a call, and they gave us a call, and then they both told us, look, this place, this is, they have no place else to turn. Can you help? And we were like, this sounds like the perfect place for us.
Yeah. It's a perfect
It's
canvas.
a perfect place. This is a place where it's clear that these are good people. They want to do their best. They want to be their best selves. They just need a little guidance. And we say, hey, this is a perfect match. And so we went there, and for a place like that, they have a little bit more patience than other places because we're kind of the last resort. They have no place else to turn. They were so grateful to have us there. They were so welcoming and hospitable to us. And all we were doing was informing their discretion. Mm-hmm. We listened to their hopes and dreams. We documented. We turned those visions into ideas on paper, 3D models, physical form. And we said to them, hey, this is your roadmap to get to where you want to be, right? And they put it into action. They followed through. It's I don't want to say it's a better place, but for the people who live there, wow, their quality of life, I hope, is a whole lot better than when we started there. And it was just, we said to them, everything you need, you already have.
Yeah.
Let us help you organize it, coordinate it, articulate it, frame it, put it in the writing, put it in the applications, and you go. Put it in the grant applications and you take action. And they did.
Yeah. So I'm hearing some of that framework that you already taught me and a lot of us for community engagement kind of coming to where you are right now. Can you tell us a little bit about what is good community engagement and what are some ways that have been harmful community engagement?
Good community engagement is inclusive. It is visionary. It is patient. It is accountable. It is creative, celebratory. And it is, it's patient and forgiving, right? Mm-hmm. It is mindful of the past, mistakes of the past, errors of the past. Yeah, when I was learning how to do community engagement, one of my mentors said to me, this is not something that, I can necessarily, you can read about and study. You kind of have to do it. You kind of have to be in the field. And he said, as long as you enter with humility, as long as you are respectful of the people that you're working with, they will give you grace and mercy. They will allow you to make mistakes. But as long as there is a kind of mutual respect, as long as there is an air of kind of openness and curiosity and a pursuit of understanding, we have to agree on terms and, kind of the meaning of terms. We have to agree on what's worth doing. But after we agree on what's worth doing, we just have to be diligent and kind of patient with each other. And I've never been thrown out of a community. Yeah, I haven't been shown the door. So I don't know if that's arrogance or luck or what. So, but it fails when it's not inclusive, right?
Yeah.
It fails when it is confrontational. It fails when it focuses on deficiencies rather than, the capacities or the skills or talents of people.
Yeah.
Right. It fails when it tries to assign blame rather than trying to understand, well, what happened? Let's not try to dwell on who's to blame for something, especially if it's unintentional. Let's try to get to some shared understanding of kind of what happened and how we need to avoid making the same mistakes.
Wow. Yeah. So can you walk us through some of those those rules of thumb that we have, maybe a couple of them that we have at TTC for ethical community engagement. Maybe take a couple of those principles and tell us what they mean.
Well, the first one is by invitation only. That is, we don't show up in places uninvited, unannounced. And there's a practical reason for that. The practical reason is, if we're going to go to a place, we need to know that we need to have some sense that they know who we are and why we're coming. And they need to have come to some understanding that the way they've been operating up to now is not sustainable. It's not equitable. It's not just for everybody. And they want to do something different. And so that's a good kind of context for us to work. Right, that's what was going on in Nolanville. They were like, "Hey, we got to try something else because the path that we're on is not leading us to anywhere. It's leading us to decline, and we need to figure something out here. Can you help us? Please come." So that was our invitation. I think a big one is that change doesn't happen overnight. A place like Nolanville and other places around. I can talk about Nolanville because I consider them a success now, and I want people to know that Nolanville did, and you can too. But change doesn't happen overnight. Places have gotten to where they are over generations, over decades, and so that's where the patience come in. You have to understand that it's going to take some time to assess what's going on, to come up with a prescription, and to start to kind of change the trajectory. And that it's okay to start slow. Yeah. So that you can escalate and speed up the pace later once you get some practice, once you build up the muscle and the stamina to do things, once you expand your networks and once you grow your capacity, you can have much greater impact much faster later.
Yeah. And even thinking about the change doesn't happen overnight, understanding the history. I don't know how a lot of planners really understand the history of planning and how a lot of racism and a lot of injustice was through planning.
They don't
for decades.
Yeah, and I try to talk about that. I'm going to be talking to some folks tomorrow about the history of planning and disasters, and I'm going to explain to them that the stuff that they're dealing with, a lot of people were first made aware of it in Hurricane Katrina. But I'm going to point out that long before Katrina, people who were paying attention could see these patterns emerging, and they happen after every disaster. And so, if you don't understand the mistakes of the past, you are likely to retrace those steps. And that's inefficiency. That's a waste of effort. So it's important to understand history so that you know where the pitfalls are.
Yeah. Is there any more rules of thumb you got for us to kind of just keep continuing that conversation of engagement that is good for communities?
Yeah, I probably got a few. We don't have time. Yeah. I think we ought to refer people to some of the reports that we've written, chapters in books where we kind of lay out the rules of thumb. But the one I like is that we should take stock from time to time of how far we have come, and we should celebrate that success. That's one of my favorite ones. There's a quote I put in my dissertation. I paraphrase is the words of Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson, controversial figure in American history, but there was something he said that connected with me, and essentially the point is, if you believe that lay people, this is one of my rules of thumb, is that lay people can make sophisticated, savvy decisions with a little bit of help and access to information, like those basic assumptions of economics that people have access to good, perfect information. I believe that if people do have access to information, they are able to make wise choices for their benefit. And so Thomas Jefferson said, if you believe that regular people, lay people, aren't smart enough, aren't wise enough to make wise decisions, the remedy is not to take the decision away from them. The remedy is to inform their discretion, right? teach them what they need to know, inform their discretion, give them the information, give them access to the information, and then they will choose, they will decide. And usually they will choose rightly. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I think that's great. I think that's a great way to end.
Okay, yeah.
And thanks, John, for
Future TTC, don't go away. Don't ever change.
Exactly. Now, hopefully John will stick around for a long time. Thanks for listening, guys. If you'd like to learn more about our program, check out our Instagram at TAMUTXTC. Or head on over to our website, tx.ag/TXTC.